An error generalized as rule reading of a poem which is very simply titled Journal. And this will be line by line. And error by error. My neighbor has a race car in his driveway. So the A sound, which utilizes, in this instance, E-I-G-H, is substituted with an A. And if we imagined this as a rule, the word weight, for example, meaning heaviness, spelled correctly W-I-G-H-T, would perhaps be spelled W-A-T-E. A D, or rather a B, reversed in the form of a D. And if we imagined this as a rule, then the name of the language poet Charles Bernstein would perhaps be Charles Dernstein, spelled C-H-A-R-L-E-S-D-E-R-N-S-T-E-I-N. Or if one wished to spell that name backwards, it would look as if it sounded something like Nietzenred, cell rock, and it would be spelled N-I-E-T-S-N-R-E-D-S-E-L-R-A-H-C. Driveway, where the opposite instance occurs, and the D, or the intended D, is replaced with a B. And if this were generalized as a rule, my former professor David Anton's name would appear as Bavib, which is somewhat difficult to say, Bavib Anton. Or if one wished to spell it backwards, it would look as if it sounded something like Nit Na Biv Abe, and it would be spelled N-I-T-N-A-B-I-V-A-B. Starts, the verb here, the verb associated with the third person pronoun he, right, which conjugated correctly should have an S after the end. The S is dropped. He start. And if this were applied as a rule, a sentence something like, he asks me to sign his name backwards, would read something like, he asked me to sign his name backwards, or perhaps backward if we were to drop all of the S's at the ends of words, or just signs his name backwards. And if we generalize the rule even further, could sound something like sign his name backward. Loud. The adjective loud, spelled correctly with a U, here the U is replaced with a W. And if we generalize that rule, a word such as outrage, perhaps, would be spelled OWTRAGE, or perhaps a word such as insurmountable would now be spelled INSURMOWNTABL. If the rest of that word is spelled incorrectly, please, my apologies in advance. Spelling is still very difficult for me. I'm not gonna address this this initial attempt because it seems to me that it's resolved in what follows. This was probably an initial attempt to write the word car, and then it was taken up here, so I won't address that. I'll address this. This appears to be the word running. I haven't read this sentence yet. That's another error on my part. I'll read the second sentence. I'll read it correctly. He starts it up. Verb, it was started, and that if it was an ED problem, then it wouldn't be he asks me to sign his name backwards. It would be he asked me, and that would appear as ask, and signed his name backwards would be sign. I mean, the result would be the same, but we're just beginning with a different morphological transformation or grammatical transformation. In any case, whether that's starts or started, now I'm looking at it because of the word yesterday. We should have read the sentence. Because of the word yesterday, I imagine that this is an ED word, not an S word, right? Not the. I think I assumed that it was going to remain in the present tense because we began with the present, but then we moved back into the past, and I failed to notice that largely just because I failed to read the second sentence before I began identifying the errors, which I definitely should have. So he started it up yesterday, and this is a run-on sentence, but it's still a single sentence. There should be a period here, and then there isn't. It was loud. So let's go back and imagine simple sentences that are combined with whatever the next sentence is as a single sentence without proper punctuation, and that would be something like, if you had the simple sentence, he asked me to sign his name backwards, and then the sentence, it was hard, or it was difficult, or even I didn't do that. You would have, he asked me to sign his name backwards, it was hard, or he asked me to sign his name backwards, it was difficult, or he asked me to sign his name backwards, I didn't do that, all as a single sentence. If one were to generalize this run-on sentence as a rule, we would have something like that. All right, so given the correction of our reading by paying more attention to what was actually going on, let's proceed to to the error here. Okay, so the first error is that the word initial R is abandoned or neglected or dropped off. And so, applying that as a rule, if we began with the word radical, for example, then radical could be spelled A-D-I-C-A-L. And I suppose that if we overgeneralized it to all R's and we dropped all of the R's, not just those which begin a word, but all R's, then the language poet Charles Bernstein, his name would look like it was something like Carls Denstein, and it would perhaps be spelled CHALESDENSTEIN, or if one preferred to spell it backwards, I suppose. And I'm accumulating all of these generalized rules, right? Like so, I'm adding them all together. This is not an isolation of independent rules. In this instance, it's an example of accumulation of these various errors as rules. But then if we wanted to spell Charles' name backwards, it would look something like N-I-E-T-S-N-E-D, S-E-L-A-H-C, and I suppose narrative would be spelled, I don't know what it would sound like. I mean, perhaps, like the words sound the same, and it would sound like narrative, but it would be simply spelled N-A-A-T-I-V-E. And then the second thing, that I'm noticing here is that the double consonant N, it has become a triple consonant N. And so I suppose if one were to generalize that into, ing words, present progressive words, then a word like, running would look like this. But if one were to, generalize it still further, not only to present progressives, but, to nouns as well, then a word like cunning, which is now spelled C-U-N-N-I-N-G, would, perhaps be spelled C-U-N-N-N-I-N-G. If I suppose one were to generalize the word to proper nouns as well, then once again Charles Bernstein could become CHALESDENSTEINN, and or backwards, I guess that would be it's a little difficult to do backwards. That would be NNIETSNN ED, I believe. I may be wrong. SELAHC, perhaps. And David Anton's name would be now spelled, or David. I suppose we're not really changing the pronunciation, just the textualization here, but would be spelled BAVIBANNTINN, or if we wish to spell it, backwards, as in he asked me to sign his name backwards. I did not do so. Simple sentence, which is actually a run-on sentence, but since we overgeneralize the rule, that would now, I believe, be spelled, and you can write it out. And if I'm if I'm in error, then one can inform me using space-time travel communication coordinates regarding what errors I've committed in this reading of this poem, which is very simply titled "Journal," and I can either make corrections in a separate piece, or I can simply ignore my own errors. As I was saying, if one preferred to spell it backwards, it would perhaps be spelled, and correct me if I'm wrong, as I just noted, N-N-I-T N-N-A-B-I-V-A-B, and here's I think the final error here, which is the addition of O in words that use the U by itself with an E on the end, right? Obviously, or you say the combination of U and E to designate this oo sound, and I suppose if we were to overgeneralize this rule, then for some reason I'm having a difficult time thinking of other examples of words that utilize this. The only one that really comes to mind off the top of my head is the word dude, and so if one were to put that in a sentence that had to do with the reading of this particular poem in this particular style, and we could imagine it as being kind of having a register, a linguistic register. Dude, what an awesome radical narrative reading of the journal, of this journal. Dude, what an awesome radical reading of this journal would now be spelled D oh, where am I? No, oh, sorry. I was looking up here. Would now be spelled D-O-U-D-E W-H-A-T A-N-N R-E-A-D-I-N-G-O-F-T-H-I-S or I think I missed the word radical, but let's go back. So where was I in that sentence? What an awesome well, let's put the word radical after the word awesome, and then so after the word awesome, which we spelled AWESOME, then we would have ADICAL, and then if we were to overgeneralize that rule again, we would have not reading spelled with an R, but without the R, so EADING, or if we wanted to generalize that rule, INNG. But I think we only generalized from words that have the no, we didn't. When we applied it to Charles Bernstein's name, we just added an extra N. We didn't only look for doubles. So reading would now be spelled READ, oh sorry, EADINNG, and then OF of, or perhaps we wanted to put narrative in there too, which you recall awesome. So radical, and then after the word radical, NAATIVE, and then the word EADINNG, OV, JOURNNAL, I suppose, for this word. JOURNNAL.